Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's JPalm, and we will be going through a Lo Shu Magic Square tutorial. I'm going to give you a quick, evaluation of what a Lo Shu Magic Square is, and then we can get into coding it. I think it's a really good practice for early development practice, I suppose. Just really quick algorithms and being able to, especially for enhanced for loops, nested for loops, I think it's pretty good practice within Python. And I'll also do it within Java and C# if that's needed. But what a Lo Shu Magic Square is, it's this really old, I believe it's 4 millennium old Chinese puzzle where the goal is to make sure that you're given a 9 square grid, and the goal is to make sure that all of the numbers going horizontally, vertically, and diagonally add up to the same value. And for 9 squares, it is always going to be 15. So as you can see here, 4 plus 9 plus 2 would equal 15, 8 plus 5 plus 2 would equal 15, and 8 plus 1 plus 6. And, going in pretty much any direction should add up to 15. And like I said, it's really good practice for, early coding. You could pretty much do it yourself, but, if you ever get stuck, then, and, like you refer to online resources, then, well, yeah, that's pretty much why I'm making this video. So just getting right into it, I've already created a new project and a new Python file. So I'm just going to first, it could really take any input, but I suppose the first thing to do would create that input. It can be random, but that would take a bit longer. So I will just create a random square array. I'm going to be using like Java terms. Like I'm pretty sure it's just a dictionary in Python, but you understand. Or not a dictionary, a list. But anyway, yeah. So it's going to be, as you can see, it has to be, since it's going in 2 direction, it has to be a 2-dimensional array. So it's going to be a list within a list, and the values will be, so I'm going to give it a valid input right now, as in, this one should be correct, as in, like all of the sides should add up to 15. And then I'm going to test it with an incorrect input just to make sure that the validation actually works. So, all right, there you go. All right, so now that that's been instantiated, oh, no, it hasn't. In the complete wrong spot. Okay, there you go. All right, so now that the square is assigned a 2-dimensional list, I'll create a quick function. I'll call it validation. Oh, is that a keyword? I can't tell. I'll call it valid. Okay, no, it is validation. Yeah, used to using like IntelliJ or NetBeans or like Java IDs. But anyway, all right. So I'm going to call the input Lo Shu, and that's the 2-dimensional list that we defined up there, and now we have to find a way to check whether it's valid or not, so I'm just going to call this check, and it's going to equal true, and of course if it becomes false at any point, that's when the checking is terminated, and I can return either, well, I'm probably just going to return the value of check, which should be true in this first instance. Next, I'm going to have, you have to have a way to check both the diagonal, I guess, iterations, since it's pretty easy to check, vertically and horizontally, horizontally being the first for loop, vertically being the second of the nested for loop, but to check diagonally, that has to be its own, list definition. So I'm going to call this diagonal, and I'm going to assign it, since it's a 9 grid array, then it has to be, you have to define the certain values at those diagonal spots. And what I mean is, if I'm passing in a 2-dimensional array, then I have to make sure that each diagonal spot is hit both ways. So for the first one, I'm just going to copy and paste this so that there's only 2 diagonal ways. I'll just call this diagonal 2. And that means that the first point is the going, like, I guess to the southeast. That would be the first one, the middle one, which will always be the point, and the rightmost one. and it's pretty much just the inverse for the opposite direction. So that would mean that it's called Lo Shu, and you're giving it the value, so that would be 0, 0. Lo Shu 1, 1. Oops, there we go. Plus Lo Shu 2, 2. But that's only one way. Then you have the opposite way. I'm just going to copy and paste that. So that should be 0, 2. Still 1, 1. And that's 2, 0. And what I mean by that is, like, well, yeah, you pretty much get it. I don't have to constantly repeat myself. Okay. So next, I'm going to have an empty list. Just call it listing, I suppose. I don't know. I'm not really that creative with these variable names. And now I'm going to loop. And what this is for is, this is really just the one that will contain, it will contain whether or not it's correct. Like, this is what we'll be checking to determine the veracity, the truthhood of the actual Lo Shu Magic Square. So first we're going to loop through it. So for a row in range of, there's only 3 squares, so it's going to be in the range of 3. All right, that's the first one. So within this range, we'll create a number and we'll assign it to 0. We'll create 2 numbers, which will also be 0. These are iterations, by the way. And now for the second, so that's the row. Now we're going to iterate through the columns. That's what the nested for loop is. Oh, did I spell that right? I did. All right, so if, oh, there we go. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. Okay. All right, so now that we're in the second loop, which is checking vertically, so we're going to check, we're going to add each one of the numbers in the vertical iterations to the first number to see if they add up to 15. So I'm going to say Lo Shu, which is still the one at the top, the magic square that we passed in. I'm going to give it the row that we're in, and I'm going to give it the column. So that'll add up, and I'm going to make listing dot append. Okay, good. How to remember the methods within Python. Lo Shu row. And like I said, this empty list is really just the final, like that's just the one that I'm going to be checking for the truth. Like as far as, what I'm pretty much saying is that, like that should be 15. Like we can't really check this since it's within the list. We could, but you know, I feel like this is easier to explain it this way. So then I'm going to append each one, or each, you know, like value. Now for the second number, I'm going to make that the exact opposite, so that now we're going there we go. So now that, you know, like we're still changing columns, but we're going like in another direction. And I copy and pasted too much. Okay, there we go. All right, and I don't need to print it, but I will. Actually, that might confuse things. No, I'll print it. I'll do that at the end, actually. Printing it now would definitely confuse a lot. So now for the validation, if the first number is not equal to 15, which it should be for every iteration. No. Okay, or, I forgot Python doesn't use those symbols. Or the second number, which is called number, that's not equal to 15. Or, what else? We need to check diagonal. That's not equal to 15. Or diagonal 2 isn't equal to 15. I'm sorry if I'm going pretty slow. I'm trying to make sure my syntax is correct, then check would equal false. And once you get out of it, oh, sorry, let me move this back a little bit actually, because then it would be within this loop. Okay. Is it outside of it already? It looks like it's still in it. I can't tell. Okay. Oh, no mistake. We'll see. Alright, so next, now that we're out of the loop, I want to get out of the first for loop, since this is, the validation is done in the first for loop, and I want to get out of that for this next part of the code. So next I'm going to sort it. And I will iterate through this new listing that I mentioned earlier. So for begin listing, I'm going to print the values just so, yeah, it's easier to print here so that you know, like, oops, there we go. So that you know what it is. A is a terrible, you know, variable name, but screw it. All right. So list, range. I'll explain all this in a moment. It's probably easier to just go since, you know, that guy. Equals false. Return the check, which is the final move, and then I will print the validation and I will pass the square. Alright, so that last part was pretty quick, but what most of this was really just so after sorting it, which makes things a lot easier, wait, oops, sorry, I had the semicolon. Yeah, anyway, after sorting the list, first I iterated and print it. This is really just for the video. Actually, I can take that off for now. I'll do that in a sec. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, if the listing, or if every value within the list is, yeah, and you're iterating through the 9 values, you're starting at range 1, ending at 10. But yeah, if it's not in that range, then you give false. And that means that if it's not within, if it's not a 3 grid array, that's just extra validation. It doesn't always have to be, but you know, it's probably better just to have that check. So anyway, you return false if it isn't. And finally, I print it just to show you that it works. All right, now we can run it. I'm gonna run it. All right, so it's giving back true, and I'm going to uncomment this out just so you can see that it's actually going through everything. All right, so as you can see, it's sorted and it's going through all 9, but let's get rid of this completely. Actually, maybe I'll bring that back, but I won't sort it. And now it's returning false because I'm iterating through the listing. That's what I'm really checking. It has to be sorted or else, you know, you'll get back random values like this. So, you know, and now that it's sorted, I'll also change up the input just so that you see it works. Like, for example, 4, putting 4 here would make, obviously this wouldn't be 15 anymore. So if I run it again, it'll provide false as the output. So yeah, it works. And of course I can do this in other languages just to make it a bit easier. Like, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of silence and, you know, like double backtracking, I guess, just to make sure that I was doing it correctly in Python. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or shoot me a message on either Twitter or LinkedIn, or, you know, whatever other medias I have linked. Anyway, yeah, that's the video. Like, comment, subscribe. See you later.